I
Turn on
can't
the
do
heat.
it. I can't
In
do
about
it.
15 minutes, I'm going to be sliding my chair back over to turn the heater off.
Yay!
So hard.
Perimenopause.
Woo! Oh my goodness.
Anyway.
Welcome to TBR Lowdown.
We don't know what temperature we are.
Hang on. Dee Dee's trying to come in the room and she is going
Dee
to over everything.
Dee is
bye-bye.
Dee,
bye-bye. I love you.
Dee is allowed in the room. If I was there, Dee would be allowed in.
Dee is so needy, but I'm so in love with her. I love that dog so much.
I was gonna say Dee's a dog for anybody who doesn't know.
Oh yeah, right. Dee's a dog. She's so sweet, and I'm also part of the problem because I spoil her rotten. It's also me.
That.
I can't help it. She's
that.
so freaking cute. Oh, all right. All right.
So, full disclaimer: Naomi has a cold.
I have a cold.
I can't regulate my own temperature anymore. We're in a weird spot. Physically, maybe even mentally. So welcome to TBR Lowdown, where we are always a hot mess and sometimes we're in a hot flash.
That's right. Use your two perimenopausal ladies coming through with all the books. Oh my gosh. Okay. How are you?
I mean, I'm fine, I guess. I have a 3-day weekend, so I'm happy.
Yes.
This only having 2 days off thing is for the birds, man.
I know. It's such a change for you. Such a change.
Mm-hmm. So. I'm in a very interesting transitional period in my life, and
very yes.
Trying to remain positive.
I'm sure some of our listeners can relate, being in transition with careers and whatnot. Yeah. Well, do you want to go first with what you've been reading or what you've recently finished?
Sure. I finally started I guess I'm quite far along in this. I'm seeing how far along I am. There's a read on a group read on Substack of To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. So I am caught up with the reading, I think, for this week. And so that's through part 1, which is actually quite a lot. I mean, that's quite a good chunk of the book.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 more parts, which are not as long. And I'm enjoying this. I don't know if I can truly explain to you what it's about in any sort of nitty gritty sense.
Yeah.
The overarching thing is you have this family, the Ramseys. There's 8 children, 2 adults, and there's a bunch of other people, and they're at the beach. They're at their like summer sort of cottage, and their plan is to go to this lighthouse. Essentially, one of the younger kids just wants to go very badly. This lighthouse they can see from the house, and the weather's just never quite right for them to go. But it's really, in true Virginia Woolf fashion, you're looking at people and you're in their heads and you're kind of jumping through their heads. And we spent a lot of time in the head of Mrs. Ramsey, and I really enjoy her. She's a very loving mom. She's a very interesting woman. She's a woman who can't really articulate her feelings very well, but she has deep feelings, deep thoughts, deep emotional. She's not shallow in any way, but everybody around her, when you're in their heads, they just see this beautiful woman, this sort of angelic woman, this mother, this all those things, and there's depth to her that they can't see, and she also can't articulate it because it's just she talks about how she doesn't have the words to do stuff. Meanwhile, her husband he's a poet. I think he may even be a teacher of some sort, but he's the words guy, right? So he's all about deep thoughts and then expressing his deep thoughts and all this stuff. And it's just really interesting to jump through all these people's heads. And then you see her children, and then there's some guests at the house and some other people neighbors and things. So there's just a lot of ideas kind of being shuffled around as you go from people head to head to head. and it's just beautiful writing, and I'm loving it. I can't really think of any other way to explain to the Lighthouse than
Yeah.
that. It doesn't sound incredibly exciting when you explain it like that, but it is really interesting. I will say on the back here it says a moving portrait and miniature of family life.
Mm.
Um, it has profoundly universal implications, giving language to the silent space that separates people and the space that they transgress to reach each other. So I, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm waiting for like the first sort of discussion post because I find that Tasha's posts are really great, and
Yeah.
really insightful. So, um, yeah, so that's Tosh and over on Substack, and I think the actual Substack name is Wolfish, like
Mhm.
Virginia Woolf. So we can try to
Yeah.
remember to link it down below. But she did a Mrs. Dalloway read along last year that I hopped into like about a week or two late, just to because I was really enjoying the discussions she was doing around the book. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend following them if you're over on Substack because I just think they are very interesting. And if you were interested in
Very
reading Wolf,
nice.
it's a nice way to do it. Yeah,
Very
that's my
nice.
reading.
Very nice. Substack is such a great community. Okay.
Yeah. I
Um
feel like I'm having like sympathy snot. Like I just got a little bit snotty. I was like, oh no. Like I'm like, oh don't worry. I'll be, I'll congest with you.
Oh my gosh, that was hilarious. Sympathy snot. I am never going to forget that one. That I like that one. Okay. I am finally reading my first book by Samuel R. Delaney, Babel 17.
Hmm.
This is a sci-fi author that I learned about some years ago, and every time I go to McKay, I always look to see if there's any of his books. And one of my last two McKay visits, there was finally one there. I could not believe it. I grabbed it immediately. So Babel 17. I'm just going to read the very short description and then kind of tell you where I am and what I'm thinking so far. And I'm not very far, I'm just on chapter 1. But it says Babel 17 is all about the power of language. Humanity, which has spread throughout the universe, is involved in a war with the invaders, who have been covertly assassinating officials and sabotaging spaceships. The only clues humanity has to go on are strange alien messages that have been intercepted in space. Poet and linguist Rydra Wong is determined to understand the language and stop the alien threat. So we meet this general, and he has given these documents regarding Babel 17 to
Mm.
Roger Wong, and Wong is a brilliant mind. She is very adept to learning languages. It is very easy for her to pick up on them, and so from what I've read, apparently the military had a stab at trying to figure out what this Babel 17 was, and they didn't get very far. But Miss Wong has done some work, and she's getting kind of closer to figuring out like what's going on. I don't really know because I'm just in chapter 1. I don't really know what Babel 17 is at this point, but it's something that she's trying to figure out, something that she's trying to unravel, and it sounds like it has something to do with the last invasion that happened some years ago. So I suspect I'm going to learn what Babel 17 actually is, how it relates to the invasion, and how all those pieces play together. But I'm very interested to see like how this story comes together. I so far I really like Wong. She's very smart, super intelligent. I love when brilliant women are featured in sci-fi stories, so I'm looking forward to see how her art goes, and I'm just happy to finally be reading my first Samuel R. Delaney book. So that's Babel 17, and yeah, I have high hopes. I have high hopes.
All right. Somehow I've disappeared, but give me a moment. I will
Yeah, I noticed that.
I don't know why. Sometimes I leave my phone plugged in all the time,
Oh,
and somehow sometimes it doesn't what's it called? It doesn't want to actually do what I want it to do. And
oh,
I haven't changed it in a long time. I feel like it's like the powers that be don't want us to
oh
record
no.
stuff.
I mean, I'm having a hard time here. Nose is running, eyes are running. Like it's it's a lot happening.
I know. I'm
Oh my
sorry.
gosh.
But do you
Uh-oh.
do I?
Yeah.
It's weird because it's like picking up my phone, but it's not picking up my phone,
Oh,
which
you
is
do you
strange.
want to restart and maybe turn your phone off and turn it back on? Give it like a little
No,
reboot?
I changed phones. It should pick up, but it's just being
Oh, this tea is so good and so comforting.
what? Turn on reactions area. Are we happy now? Are you happy now? Okay, fine. That's fine.
It's like, no, I don't really like that one.
Google camera, desk view. Okay. Google sees my camera, but StreamYard doesn't. You should see my camera. Literally everybody else does. It's funny because if I click on, so it's there. I just don't know why.
Huh.
Start cam. There we go.
There you are.
I had to hit a button. I had to find the button to hit, but I had to hit a button. I don't know why my other one died, but like, this is like my actual phone that I use.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I don't know why my other one died because I keep it plugged in all the time, and
Yeah,
it's charging this. I don't know. So I'll have to charge this somewhere else. It's fine. Um, Sorry about that.
that's okay. That's all right.
I'm looking at him like this is working. So what does it mean, pitch fast? But we're good. Anyway, so after all that, what are we here to talk about?
Well, if you followed us for any amount of time, you know that we really enjoy reading translated fiction. We
Mhm.
run an annual reading challenge dedicated to women in translation. We have basically a women in translation annual book club as well. So we thought that we would share 10 books that we feel are great choices to dip your toe into reading translated fiction.
And because I need to make sure Naomi didn't change her mind, it's 5 books each, right?
That's right. That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
If really old listeners will never remember that
No,
Naomi
they
really
will.
likes to
Yes, they
me
will
too lots
understand.
of books.
They will understand. And right, the old listeners know that I've come a long way. Okay, in
Yes,
my
just be like,
numbers
let's
game.
each share 20 books that we want to read for nonfiction November.
Exactly. Exactly. I have piped it down.
Like Naomi, we need to give morsels, bite-sized morsels for the people.
Okay. Okay. Well, are
Okay.
you ready to?
I'm ready if you are ready.
I'm
Do
ready.
you want to go first?
Sure. This is a book that I believe was one of our early days book club pick. Before we
Yes, I saw you
transitioned
had
to
that on the
just
list.
yeah, before we just transitioned to reading only women in translation. This is Blindness by Jose Saramago, and this is translated from the Portuguese
Yes,
by Giovanni Pontiero. And this is actually a fabulous book. And there's a sequel that I still need to read called Seeing.
same.
Um, but some kind of an epidemic hits the city, and they call it white blindness. Basically, everyone loses their sight,
Mhm.
and it really shows you how people respond to things when there are so many that are vulnerable because they cannot see. And it shows you what it looks like when all the systems around us begin to crumble and we have to figure out how to
Realignment.
maintain some kind of order and to rebuild those things, all the while trying to figure out what the heck this epidemic is and how it started and how we can restore sight. It was an extremely visceral read. I enjoyed it a great deal. It will definitely keep you on your toes. It is very gripping, and I recommend Blindness by Jose
I really love
Saramago.
that book. I was very happy to have read it with
Yeah.
you. So when you gave me this prompt, my thought process through my five
Uh huh.
is to introduce you to some things that I enjoy in very different ways. So,
Mm-hmm.
through translated lit. So, I kind of like um an autobiographical memoir-y moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I have Tove Didlif Sen's Child Youth Independency. I said that name really poorly, but this is a phenomenal like triptych of uh, one woman's life. She's talking about her life growing up in her youth and then in her adulthood when she becomes an author and she has to deal with her dependency on opioids.
Uh-huh.
It is really well done. I didn't like the childhood section because I didn't like the narrative voice. But the reason I didn't like the narrative voice is because I just don't tend to like really young narrative voices in general.
Yeah.
And that is also why it's such a well done book because it is so convincingly done in the age appropriate, like, um, it's age appropriate. It's not just like this straight memoir. It really reads like a fiction novel, and you grow up with her. And it's so good. She's from a working class family in Copenhagen. You see World War II. You see all kinds of interesting things. You
Yeah.
see her entrance into and progression as an author, her like notoriety, her dependency, obviously, her very stressful life growing up with her family. It's really, really great. So I think that this is
Mm.
a great little for your starter pack, as you called it. If
Yeah.
you want a little like nonfiction-y memoir moment,
Yeah.
childhood youth and dependency. That's
Yeah.
mine.
I dig it. I
Hmm.
I hope I can run across that one day. I like to read that.
Yeah, and I really like that penguin classic cover. I know there's another cover with like the
It's
eye.
so
It's
cute. I love
also
it.
really pretty, but I just like that one. I think it's cute.
It is. It is. All right. My next one I'm going to recommend is Abigail by Magda Szabo. I actually don't think that's how you say her name. I've got to find the way to pronounce that, but I don't think that's right. And it's translated from the Hungarian by Lynn Ricks. I think Lynn Ricks translated all of Magda's books. But anyway, we're during World War II, and we're with this very headstrong teenager named Abigail. Her mother has passed, and she's being raised by her father, who is a general in the service. And she
Hmm.
has a very lovely life, and until her father tells her that they have to leave their home, and that he's taking her to live in this school. It's the school like way up far away in the country, and she doesn't quite know why this has to happen. And her father is not really giving her any reason as to why this has to happen. But he has informed her that she is to tell no one where she's going. She's to communicate with no one from their past life. And that these teachers here will protect her.
Hmm.
But she does something that puts him in a position where he is forced to tell her the real reason why he has placed her in the school. And so, there is a lot of seriousness because it is wartime, and her father has a very big job and he's doing some very serious things, and everyone's life really is at risk and in danger. But you also get like the typical shenanigans of teenage girls. And as I'm scanning, because I never read the back of this book before,
Hmm.
but as I'm scanning the back of this book, I don't know why this just infuriated me. It says, it says, fans of J.K. Rowling are sure to enjoy Szabo's picture of irreverent students, eccentric teachers, and boarding school life. I don't know why anybody would even put this in the same sentence of like anything Harry Potter. That is not what this is. Just because she's in a school does not mean that
all
it relates
school
to Harry
books,
Potter.
all school books are Harry Potter from this day forward.
Because I don't always like read like the full, like
Yeah.
I skim for like keywords that stick out to me, and so this is the
Hmm.
first time that like I saw that. I'm so annoyed by this. Do not pick this up thinking you're getting some kind of Harry Potter shirt. That is not what this is. I don't don't think that. Don't think that at all. I don't know what. Okay, that just really annoyed me. Anyway, this was a great book. I really like Magda Szabo. I've also read The Door, and I have the rest of her books that have been translated into English that I plan to read this year. But I thought this was really, really good. So pick up Abigail if you get a chance.
I'm still a little surprised that you didn't pick The Door. When she sent me her list, I was like, no door.
I could have gone either way, but I see a lot of people talking about The Door online, so I thought I'd
Yeah.
just talk about Abigail.
It has like little resurgences. I feel like
It
people like
does.
a lot of people must read it, and then everybody kind of talks about it, and then it kind of
Yeah,
simmers down, and then it goes again.
exactly.
Um, so then, of course, in Alyssa's little starter pack, you have to have some Lispector. And then I was like, how do I choose? And I realized I was just going to start where I started. So
Okay.
the short stories. So I think this is a really great way to be introduced to her. Because you can take it in little bite-sized things. It's in chronological order, so you can see the progression of her as an author, and you can just see the whole like breadth of like what she can do, and then you can dive into the full-length novels. And I just think this is a lovely place to start. And I don't really have a lot to say about it because they're all different stories. They're really good.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this. I particularly enjoy some of the later stories where you can see her frustration with being a writer, and I thought they were really interesting to see her characters talking about like being an older writer and being later in your career and some of the frustrations around that phase of life. Yeah, because I just don't think we see a lot of that. And I don't see that a lot, like especially for like women later in life talking about those frustrations. So I highly recommend starting with the complete short stories because that's where I did. So I'm a little bit biased, but the Spectre.
Look at that big chunky baby. I like it. Okay. My next one is My Men by Victoria Keelan, translated from the Norwegian by Damien Searles. It's a very short book.
I need to read that already.
You do.
Talked about it like
I
3
loved it.
times.
I loved it. It's based on the true story of a Norwegian maid turned Midwestern farm wife, Belle Gunness. I think that's how you pronounce her name. And she's the first female serial killer in American history. So this is like a fictional account of that woman. And the reason why I really like this book is because there was something somewhat quiet about it, but like a silent rage. It isn't the kind of book where it's like, you know, hack and slash, where you like it's all these accounts of her like, you know, chopping up men and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like a silent rage, and like everything is revealed in a very like quiet way, but it's like extremely disturbing. And like you just see her throughout this entire story just going, you know, just becoming more mad, more mad, more mad. And it's terrifying because there's also like a, I don't know, it's like a quiet calm, because it is this farm life, right? There's this like really calm setting around this woman, like just like losing it mentally. And so it's like very jarring and extremely disturbing because those two things don't really match or go together. It's unsettling, and I enjoy being unsettled. And I love when an ending really just like makes my jaw just drop to the floor. Just
Is
like
this
what?
wait, I think I read a different book about this same person
Oh,
in
really?
November, and now that we're talking about this again, like, I'm connecting dots. Is this,
Oh,
like, Norwegian or Swedish lady that comes over
yes.
and she just starts murdering? Like, she murders a
Uh-huh.
couple husbands, and then she
Uh-huh.
just
Yep.
lures men to her farm, and then
Yep.
her farm is
Yes.
filled with bodies.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, this lady's story is fantastic, and I
Yeah.
read this, like, historical fiction about her, which was just it slapped, man. It was
Okay,
great. It was a
share that with
great
me because I need to read that, and you need to
I
read
will
this.
I will read that because it was a
Yeah.
great, like I drove to Boston and back and listened to it, and it was just it was just so murderous. It was great.
So murderous.
It
So
was
murderous.
awesome.
Right. But pick this up. I think this was done really, really well. So yeah, My Man by Victoria Keeland.
I'm gonna recommend it just because I think the story of this lady is so fantastic.
Yeah.
She like
Yeah.
stabs some guy in the thigh with a fork. It's awesome.
Why are we laughing? Yeah, it was fantastic. I want to read that. I want to read that.
We're laughing because of the patriarchy, okay? We all wish we
Okay.
could do it. We can't.
Right. Exactly.
um, I'm going to add to my little what did we call it? Starter pack.
Start a pack.
I think that everyone should read Russian literature. And I was like, where do we
Yeah.
start? I don't know. So I picked it's a little short story that you can buy as a little book, and I think it's great. It's a great place to start. And it is The Nose by Nikolai Gogol.
Mm.
And it's funny, okay? Little slim, little volume. And it's basically this little satirical short story about a St. Petersburg official whose nose just like leaves his face and starts his own little journey through like life.
Oh.
And it's funny and it pokes fun at a lot of different things. And I think it's a lovely little entree into Russian literature. I was going to pick Master and Margarita, but I thought this will maybe be a little bit even easier. Like,
Yeah.
I'll hold your hand, come this way, and then jump off to some of the more bizarre things like
Yeah.
Master and Margarita.
Which is one
So
of
The
my
Nose,
favorites. Ah, love it.
some Gogol, read it.
I like it. Okay. The nose. I like that
The
cover.
Nose. Hmm. It's a good
Yeah.
story. I was also thinking maybe the death of Ilan Ilyich, but no, I'll go with that. So.
I like it. Okay. My next one is How to Love Your Daughter by Hyla Bloom. And this is translated, I don't know, I can't remember the language, and it's not noted. Translated by Daniela Zamir. This was a really touchy
I
story
think
about, do
is
you
that
remember?
is that author Israeli? It might be translated from Hebrew. I
Oh,
can't
maybe,
remember.
yes.
For some
Maybe.
reason that's stuck in my head. I could be wrong, but that's keeps
No, you
jumping
know
through
what?
my
I
mind.
think you're right. I think you're right. I think it is translated from Hebrew. Uh-huh. All right. And so it's a very touchy story about a woman who is someone disconnected from her daughter, and she's watching her daughter from afar as she raises her own children. And she really has a desire to reconnect with her daughter and especially her grandchildren. And it basically recounts the relationship of this mother and her daughter while the daughter was growing up, so that we get a understanding of how they come to be in the place that they are now without having a really strong connection as a mother and adult daughter, and why she is looking at them from afar with this deep desire to rekindle that relationship. I thought it was, sad, but
Hmm.
there's so much love here. And you know you hope for this mother and daughter that they can find a way back to one another. I thought it was really beautifully written, and highly recommend How to Love Your Daughter.
Excellent. I haven't read that. I almost picked it up when we were in Portugal, actually. Um, all right. So the next thing in my little starter pack, I want to keep calling it a toolkit.
Oh, you want to
It
call it
translated like
we can call it a toolkit if you want to.
toolkit. It's a starter pack. I think everybody needs to read Claudia Pinheiro. So we're going to start where,
Yep.
again, like I did, you're going to start where I started, and that's Elena Knows. This was phenomenal. We have a lengthy discussion of this on the channel. I think I may even have a standalone review. I think that there's
Indeed.
probably a lot of references to this if you are a long time listener. So this is translated by Francis Riddle from Spanish. This is Argentine author. It's the story of this mother who has Parkinson's, and she's trying to get from one part of Buenos Aires to another part of Buenos Aires to talk to this woman who knew her daughter, because Elena's daughter has died, presumably through committing suicide. Um, but Elena is convinced that she has not done that, that she would never do that. That's just not something that her daughter would do. And so we follow Elena as she makes this very long, slow, arduous journey across Buenos Aires. Um, and it's slow, long, and arduous because of her Parkinson's and the timing of her pills and her ability to actually move. And then the blow that is the end of this book. It is so well
Yeah.
written. It is you feel the constraints of Elena's disease, the pills and how they make her feel, how they wean her off. It is so well done,
It is.
and it is just sprinkled with all these flashbacks into their life together, her and her daughter, and it's great. It's a fantastic, fantastic book. A great place to start with Pinheiro, and yeah, I think it has to be in a starter pack. So Alina knows.
It does. It does. If you are new to this channel, you will come to find that we are big Pinheiro fans, and you can just go through our old episodes. We have discussed what, 3 or 4 books now,
Uh-huh.
maybe like 4, because we, that last
Indirectly
one was
for,
like,
yeah.
yeah, and we just adore her as a writer. So,
Hmm.
all right, my last one is The Cult on Fog Island by Mariette Lindstein, and I don't know what language it's translated from, but it's translated by Rachel Wilson Broyles, and this is book 1 in the series. I never see book 2. I'm probably gonna have to just order book 2 because I never see it when I'm out thrifting. But I'm going to read the back because I read this a while ago and my memory's a little foggy. It says, when Sophia meets Franz, the handsome, charming leader of a mysterious New Age movement, she's dazzled. Encouraged to visit his headquarters on Fog Island, Sophia is struck by the beautiful mansion by the sea, the gardens, and the sense of peace. But as summer gives way to winter, and the dense fog from which the island draws its name sets in, all contact with the mainland is severed. No phones are allowed. Electric fences surround the grounds, and Sophia begins to realize no one ever leaves Fog Island. This was a really fun read. I think anyone could enjoy this. It was a good time. She is seduced by this guy, like I said, who's running this New Age movement, and she thinks she is like going to be a part of something really special. The grounds are beautiful, and when she realizes that she is stuck there, all hell breaks loose, all panic sets in, and now she's got to figure out how to get the hell off this damn island. It was funny. It
Hmm.
was gripping. It was intense, and I was there for the journey. I have, now that I'm thinking about it, now I think I might order book 2 like this week. This was a really, really good time. Just a really light, fun read. You can like gobble this up in a weekend, really. I know it looks thick, but it reads fast. The print's kind of big, and this would be a good little weekend read. The Cult on Fog Island.
I forget that I, I I forgot about that book, and I'm glad that you read it
Yeah,
because it sounded so good when you
me
first
too. I also
talked
forgot
about
about
it.
it. I also
Yeah.
forgot about it. And I'm like, I need to get book 2. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
So final for me is if we're gonna talk about translated lit, I have to throw in some manga, which means I have to throw in some Junji
Oh,
Ito. So we're gonna do Uzumaki, which I think has a show. If not, it almost has a show. I think they made an adaptation of this, but
oh, really?
this follows this, like, what does it say? It says a fog-bound town off the coast of Japan, and it's cursed. There's all these like spirals, and the spirals make you go crazy. It is the spiral thing is like disturbing, and let me just tell you, like, you you will be like walking through your life, and you just see spirals after reading this, and you're like, oh my
That's so
god,
wild.
you know, I hope the spiral doesn't make me go
That is
crazy
wild.
and turn into these like weird like things. I'm just gonna randomly show some, but I really love Junji Ito's horror. I think um it's particularly like, I don't know, it's creepy, but it's smart. The drawings are really beautiful. He has a book that came out recently on like him talking about horror, which I really want to
Oh,
read. I want to know like how he thinks about it, you know?
yeah.
Uh but yeah, I would say let's start with Uzumaki. So I can't have a list. I can't have a, what is this, a toolkit, a starter pack without some Junji Ito on there. So yeah, that's what I got.
Is that appropriate for a teenager? Like a 13,
Uh
14, 15-year-old teenager?
Probably like 15, 16. I don't know if you
Okay.
would go like younger than that.
Okay.
I don't know, and like how squeamish they are. I mean,
Uh,
it's definitely like people die and stuff, and
Yeah.
like some of the stuff is graphic. I can't remember if he has boobs in this, because that's one of the things you have to realize with sometimes manga just has boobs.
Right.
Um, I would say, like, if you're gonna do this as a teenager, you want like an older, mature teenager that's already reading like kind of messed up stuff, you know?
Okay. Yeah. So maybe
I
16,
won't,
17.
yeah, I wouldn't like just hand this to a 13-year-old and be like, have fun.
Right. Right.
um, yeah, I'm just trying to flip through and see if there's any like boobies. There might be boobies. It's fully possible. I feel like manga, there's almost always a boobie that slips in there, but I mean, it's not Dick Fight Island, so it's
Right.
that now
Right.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
that is a fun afternoon. You're gonna giggle and kick your little feet.
Oh, that's funny.
There is a two. I think there's at least two of them, and I didn't read the second one.
Oh, okay. I
It's
remember
funny.
when that one was the talk of the town.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Wow.
that was not the point of this episode. It was
All
not Dick
right.
Fight Island.
Someone's gonna Google that right away. Okay, was that your last one?
Yes, that was my last one.
Okay, well, hopefully you all will read some of those selections. Yeah. And if you
Yeah.
are already a reader of translated fiction, let us know what you would put in a translated fiction starter pack. Let us know.
Or toolkit.
Or toolkit. Yeah. I think it's book recommendation time. I'm hot.
It is book recommendation time. I got cold. Do you see what happened? Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
Falling over.
Are you okay?
Podcaster down. Podcaster down.
Please remember in the beginning of the episode where I said that this might be a bit of a hot mess because we are
Just
unwell.
Perhaps you should start with your recommendation as I pull up
Would
my
you-
chairs in the books
would
that
you-
I pulled over.
To be fair, we've never had anybody fall on the podcast before.
You know how the area bug gets stuck under the wheel of the chair and then like
Yes.
boom, that's
And then
it.
you're just
Okay.
done. Are you
And then
okay
you're done.
though?
Oh yeah, I'm
Are you
great.
okay?
I'm great. All right.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So I'm gonna recommend a book.
I'm keeping this in, by the way. I'm not going to edit this out. It's too funny.
I never edit this stuff out. So
Right.
if you are watching the video, I never edit anything. I just put on a title card, an end card, and it gets sent
Raw and
out.
uncut for the video. Raw and uncut.
So if you ever want to see our faces or see the books or see Naomi all over, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, TBR Lowdown. Anyway, so my book recommendation, while Naomi pulls her nose, is a book that so when I was a little girl, I was very obsessed with the story of the Scarlet Pimpernel. Here was this British I think he's a baronet. I don't know. Anyway, so I met this guy, Sir Percy, who and his band of men that would go across the channel and save people from the guillotine and bring them back to England and all this stuff. They swashbuckling and it's, filled with romance and all these things. And a long time ago, my aunt gave me a copy of The Scarlet Pimpernel, and I read it either in December or January. I can't remember. And I couldn't remember if I'd ever actually finished reading it. Like I've watched 1,000 adaptations. I saw the ill-fated Broadway musical version when I was in previews when I was a kid because my dad got me tickets because that's how obsessed I am. I've read all of the Secret History of the Pink Carnation, which is a spin-off of this, which is fantastic by Lauren Willick. But I can't recall if I ever read the book. So I finished the book, and I thoroughly enjoy this. I read the second book in there's a bunch of other books in this series kind of thing that Baroness Orczy or however you say her name wrote back in. This is from 1905-ish. I might be a couple years off on that, but they're all from about that time. And then I think there's some going into the 20s as she ages and writes. But this one's very good. The second one I read was less good. But I just found it. I get why like this is the main story that stands the test of time.
Yeah.
Um, it's just fun, and I mean, like if you're like staunchly anti-capitalism, like anti like eat the rich, like if you're like really diehard, I don't know, whatever. You might not enjoy the sentiment because it is a guy going to save rich people from the guillotine, right? So
I'm right.
um but in general, I think like the romance is lovely. I love the like intrigue of it all. I love the like the sword fights and like the how is Sir Percy gonna get these people away from the guillotine. And it's I enjoy that
Yeah.
aspect of it. And it was just like I think there's a huge element of nostalgia around this because it's
Mm,
something that I loved so much as a kid. And I'm sorry, like, look at Jane Seymour.
I know.
I mean,
I mean, I remember when she was like one of the it girls in Hollywood,
she
you know? I remember that.
was, and she still is stunning. She was stunning.
Yeah.
And I just remember being a little girl watching her and dripping in this beautiful, like, um, 18th century fashion and just
Mhm.
being like in awe of how stunningly gorgeous she was and just wishing I could be like a tenth as beautiful as Jane Seymour.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, I'm really just recommending this because it's nostalgically just hit all the feels. And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe some of you also have that. So reminder to read The Scarlet Pimpernel if you haven't read it in a while or if you've never read it, but you loved the story as a kid. But it has like my little book plate in it from when I was a kid. I'm gonna try to like cover up some things, but I still have some of those book plates, by the way, in a little box somewhere.
That is so great.
And it's subscribed by my aunt that says like, what did she say to me? I think I sent you the inscription. I think it's like love conquers
Yeah.
all or something like that.
So
And
sweet.
yeah. So definitely like a big part of Alyssa lore is the Scarlet Pimpernel.
I still watch Jane Seymour. She has this show on BritBox called Harry Wild, and it's I
Mm.
just love it. I love it.
And she's
It's and she's
still
great.
beautiful.
She is. She
I
is.
mean,
It's great.
Anthony Andrews didn't age quite as well, but he was also he was like one of my young child heartthrob things.
Yeah.
I think I needed cable TV, but that's okay.
That's funny. All right. Well, that's lovely. I love that. Okay. So I am recommending a book I read this week called A Kind of Freedom by Margaret Wilkerson Sexton. Short book.
Mm.
This is a multi-generational story. Let me just kind of get all the generations together. So when we opened this book, we are in 1944, and we are introduced to sisters, Evelyn and Ruby, and they are the daughters of the first African American doctor in New Orleans. So they're living a really, lovely kind of privileged life as a Black family. And Evelyn falls for this guy named Renard, and he is the son of a janitor, so he does not come from, quote unquote, good stock. And um, she introduces him to her family, and she thinks that it goes well, but comes to find out that her parents are just absolutely mortified by this guy. They don't think that he's right for her. They don't think that he's going to elevate her in any way. They think he's going to bring her down. I mean, for God's sake, he's the son of a janitor. We're like, what are we doing here? So as it would, we'd have it, she becomes, they become pregnant, and they have a child. And then we move 30 something years later, and now we are following that child of Evelyn and Renard. And um, she is struggling to raise her son um, with the man, her husband, who is addicted to drugs. And systemic racism is very much prevalent in this book. But also, I think what even is much more deeper than that is we really get to see how each generation of this family is really struggling to like make it through. And these characters are extremely realized. And
Mhm.
so you feel so deeply for their situation. And it's a story of perseverance, you know, certainly mental health, addiction, love, trauma, and we follow these generations throughout the story. And Evelyn and Renard, they kind of like frame the whole story. Like we kind of
Mhm.
start with them and we kind of end with them, but like they're the frame of this whole entire story. I thought it was like incredibly beautiful. I thought it was very raw, very real, just extremely well written. And I this is her debut novel. The
Oh.
But not the first book that I read by Margaret. The first book I read by her was The Revisioners some years ago, which was also
Mm.
fantastic. And then I have On the Rooftop, which I think I'm going to read this month as well. But this as a debut, absolutely incredible. And to be so short, to pack in this like really full multi-generational story, that's talent, my friend. That is pure talent. So highly recommend A Kind of Freedom by Margaret Wilkerson Sexton.
You know I love a short book that
Yeah,
just executes.
it really did. It really,
Mhm.
really did, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you got for
Well,
us?
I already did mine, you
Oh, you
delusional
did?
lady.
Oh, help me, Lord.
Now
Oh my
Jesus is
goodness.
at work, he can't help you, he busy. He can't help
He's
you.
he's very busy. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in for all the shenanigans that we gave you all today. Um, usually I have to edit things out of the audio, but you know what? Just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna leave them in. I'm gonna leave them in because you know what? I think we all need a good laugh right now. Okay? I think we all
Why?
need.
What could possibly be going on in the world that
You
we might
I
need
don't
a
know.
little levity?
I'm going to leave it in just so that we can have a little moment of communal laughter. All right.
Yes,
So
I think
anyway,
that's a good idea.
follow us everywhere at TBR Lowdown. Visit our website, tbrlowdown.com. Join in on our book club reads, on our annual reading challenge. All that information is on our website. And recommend this podcast to some friends. And please leave us a review. We would greatly appreciate it. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here. I've got to blow my nose. Bye.
Yep. Bye.